You in this battle, man, I'll soon be dead. I'll glue your face to my dick so I can fuck with your head. I got metaphors coming through my pores. You probably never been in a battle before, so I hope you realize your mistake. There ain't no party, got some candles, this will be a piece of cake.
Folks, welcome to the 4 Hours Podcast, an internet radio phenomenon hosted by an occasional morning person. I ask the most interesting people I know about their sleep, their routine, life, love, stress, setbacks, and whatever else comes to mind. If you want to talk to us, you may do so in one of two ways. You could email the Before Hours Podcast at gmail.com, or you could slide into my DMs on Instagram at Bobby Sheen, LOL, because you know I bring the laughter. But for now, the guest today is a comedian, good friend, and I'm going to go ahead and say it, a good man, Patrick Holbert. How you doing, Patrick?
Hey, man, I'm great. I feel so good about myself after hearing that intro. That is not accurate at all.
You're not a good man?
I'm a bad person.
You're a bad person.
No, I'm not a bad person, but a good man, that feels like big shoes to fill, big boots.
It's the difference between, so if I said you're a good guy, you're like, he's just talking. He's just talking.
But a good man, that feels like too much responsibility. I don't know if I can do that.
What's the last nice thing you did for someone besides agreeing to do my podcast?
Oh, this is a good one. Oh man, this is hard. I have to think about it. Last good thing I did for somebody, like a stranger or somebody in my family. Well, just today I was at the playground and a young man took a head over heels.
Patrick has a child, by the way.
Yeah, I wasn't just scoping. I wasn't scoping for chicks. My little buddy Jack, who is 3.5, took a head over heels digger on his scooter, and I went over and scooped him up and helped out. So that was another person. I mean, that is like bare minimum behavior. Like if you saw that, you would do it. He's not my kid; he's my buddy's kid. But yeah, that felt nice to do. But of course it wasn't like going out of my way.
Yeah, but I think as you get older, the opportunities to go out of your way, like it's interesting because as I ask this question, I'm like, he's gonna say, well, I do stuff for my wife and child. Yeah. But that's not, I have to, not that feels not like that cheating. I have to, yeah. But like,
yeah, this was another kid. Yeah. That felt like something good. Yeah, good stuff I've done for other people. This is really interesting.
And it's really, I didn't come here thinking that I would ask you a question. It just happened. And as I'm watching you struggle, I'm also struggling.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, I'm ashamed to not have like a laundry list of ways that I'm out there helping society. But yeah, I guess I'm not really out there looking for ways to like make the neighborhood or community better.
Yeah.
Have you helped an old lady bring up groceries? I mean,
I haven't helped an old lady. I've whizzed by an old lady that was taking too long to walk up the subway stairs. Does that count?
It does count, and I'll tell you why. Because you were paying it forward. You were making people behind you their lives easier. Because if you had to if you did the thing where you waited for her, they would be waiting for you. So I think you actually smoothed the stream of life for an uncountable number of people. So that was a great thing you did, Bobby.
Dude, we should be sitting on yoga mats right now.
Yes.
So I am particular about pedestrian and subway etiquette.
Yes.
As are you. I just know that you are.
Well, it's just like, come on, like pull aside. If you're going to go on the phone, pull aside, find a lee in the flow. You know that word lee? Like the lee of a home during a windstorm is like you go where the wind isn't hitting you, like the wind is blowing past it, or the lee of a rock in a stream is behind the flow of you can find those spots in the world. So if you're like on a busy sidewalk and you know you got to take a call or text somebody, like find that rock or stone or obstacle that you can kind of hide behind. And that just like that for me, I think comes from growing up in a house where you feel like you're always in the way or there's too many people or whatever. I'm just ultra sensitive and mindful of like what's going on around me. So I'm like, where can I hide before I get in everybody's way? You know what I mean? And I don't understand why regular people don't just do that.
There is something freeing, I think, if you are scrolling through Instagram while walking up the subway stairs during rush hour. I'm like, that's the most free person I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah, but you hate them. You hate them. Like,
yeah.
you're not saying that feels freeing for you. Yeah, no. A person that it doesn't even occur to them. No, I envy them almost more than whoever gets the most sex in the world. Like that person does not give a shit.
That person is me, by the way.
Yes.
I didn't know how else to bring it up.
I saw a man eating a meal on a set of subway stairs, like eating a takeout container. And we all had just gotten off the E train at 50th Street.
Love it.
It's like hundreds of people want to go up the stairs. And he's just sitting there casually eating his like Chinese takeout. And I really had this urge to just like swat the plate out of his lap and just say, we don't do that. Like that's the dad is coming out now. Like I catch myself saying,
You wanted to put him in timeout.
yeah, I did that recently. I was working in an Ivy League town in upstate New York, and I was at this bagel shop in the morning. I'd finally been done with my morning work. I was like, I'm going to sit in this shop. I'm going to do some writing. And there's a dining room, and the whole place is empty except I hear one person behind me, and I hear them because I hear the sound of clipping fingernails. Okay, I hear fingernails being clipped. I turn around. This Ivy League student, this young kid, is clipping
not
his
a homeless person.
No. He's got his books. He's got his calculators. He's I'll just say it. He's a young Asian man, and this is Ivy League tech school. Probably extremely smart, and he's clipping his fingernails in the restaurant, in the dining room space. So I jumped out of my chair. I said, no, we don't do that here. You can't do it. You can't do it. And he goes, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know. And I'm like, no, we just don't do that here. Either take it outside or do it later when you get home. People eat here.
Yeah.
And I said, people eat here multiple times. And I realized, oh, I'm like a dad now.
Yeah.
It has happened. And I'm so curious, like, would I have approached this person if I didn't feel like I could win if I had to? But yeah, there's so many things that you see out in the world that can drive a person crazy.
I like the idea of, you're like, it wasn't when I saw my child being born that I realized I was a dad. It was when I accosted a stranger.
Yeah. It was when I wanted to control the behaviors of others in situations that don't actually matter. No, it's like cranky dad comes out in very strange times. And I think it's related to lack of sleep and rest and those kinds of things. It's like you just end up with this like simmering crank level that's always on. And so anyway.
So maybe I'm equally as cranky. I don't have children, but I do stand-up comedy, so I am as sleep deprived.
Yeah, and you are trying to assert yourself in front of groups of people who are sometimes younger than you. Like you make that audience your child every time you take the stage. I've seen you. You come with that daddy energy. I mean sexual daddy.
I make them suck my teat.
Even
though I don't produce milk, they still suck my nipples.
They milk the teat of Bobby Sheehan.
Dude, PSA for any ladies listening, which is, I re-looked at the metrics the other day. 10% of my listeners.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Hey, what's up, 1 of 10 ladies?
Yeah, dude, what's up? But don't suck a man's nipples. He doesn't want it.
I do want it. I like it.
That's crazy.
It's an erogenous zone. I want a nibble. I want to suck. I want a scrape. I want a pinch.
Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, I have like little girly boobs, so maybe that's why. Like, you're very fit. I'm not. I'm a little soft under the shirt.
I have little boy nipples.
Oh.
If you saw my nipples, like just the picture of my nipples with nothing else, I don't know why you have this, but
yeah,
if you had
I wouldn't
them,
be able to know.
Yeah, you'd be like, I hope he gets through middle school well. You know what I mean?
Well, I have the nipples of a good man, so I don't know how they would look isolated. Yeah, I like a nipple tweak.
That's, dude. I
think breast play should be equal opportunity.
No way.
Like,
no way.
Grab them.
No,
go for it,
you
ladies.
Stay away from my nipples.
I like my back scratched. I like a lot of girly stuff, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I feel like just my penis is the area I care about.
Please go to the one place. Like, let's stop beating around the literal bush here. Just get to business. Yeah, I understand.
Dude, you know what reminded me of, because I was like, Patrick definitely hates people that violate pedestrian rules, is you have a bit in your act. I don't know. It's been a while since we've performed on the same show, but you this bit about, I'm gonna butcher it, I'm dissecting your bit on a podcast.
Well, I'm honored because I need bits. So maybe this is an old bit I can bring back.
You had this thing about you're trying to get your wife to use a plate when she eats a cookie.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So as I was like, because the situation, because I've talked about pedestrian rules on the podcast before, and 9 times out of 10, the guest is like, you're a crazy person.
Yeah.
Like you're being crazy. But your commitment to not having crumbs on your living room floor made me think that maybe you felt similar.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So yeah, the idea is that my wife is messy and she can't control where her crumbs go, and she refuses to use the plate, which used to drive me crazy. But I have to admit, I have to proudly say I've lightened up quite a lot. Ooh. And actually, what I was nervous you were going to start talking about are my control issues around comedy, which I think came out for me in a really shitty way when I was an open mic host for way too long. And I think I ruined like friendships with people I love whose comedy is amazing because I was too controlling about how open mic rooms should be run. And I feel really lame about that. I feel ashamed about that. And I worry that there are still comics who are like, yeah, that dude was like so annoying to like be around when we were all doing mics together. So that's like a fear I have. And I assume there are people who remember control issues of mine from back then. So I thought you were going to go down that road, but here
we can now.
Here I am opening this can of worms.
Well, what were the open mic rules?
Well, you know,
your
like
draconian open mic rules.
Not my personal ones, but you remember. I mean, I hosted for Laughing Buddha for like probably 2 years too long.
If you know, you know.
I think 3 years in total or something. I hosted for them 3.5 maybe, and like. You know, I think before I ever started comedy, I think I am a person who cares about fairness and justice and tidiness, whether it's physical crumbs not being on the floor or tidiness in social situations or public transport or whatever. Because I'm a person who I'm mindful of how other people take up space in the world and how I take up space and how I can make things easier for other people or whatever. And when I started comedy, I was older. I was 32 when I started. So I was always sort of like, well, I'll just like figure out how to go along to get along, and I'll learn the ropes, and whatever people ask of me, I'll just do. And so anyway, I ended up in these open mics where they had like rules. It was like, you got to stay in the room if you want to go up. You got to try to support the other comics. You got to buy a drink. You got to pay there's fucking cover. For
no Hispanics, stuff like that.
Yeah. No Mexicans, no Puerto Ricans. I just like mindlessly like kind of was just like, yeah, if that's what they want us to enforce, I'll do that. You know what I mean? And I think I was a little too fastidious when I could have been like, I should just be making friends and we should go do other shows. Like, why am I even still here? You know what I mean? So, and I've had to, as a new parent, I've had to let go of the perfectionism stuff around cleanliness. An example I used is a few years ago, you know, the Keurig coffee machine? I got one of those things. It's the filter where you put loose coffee in. It's not pods, you know, it's like a screen. And do you know that thing?
Yeah.
So that thing, before I met my wife, I remember I got 2 of those things, and I was like, well, I'll use one and then I'll clean it thoroughly. Every time I use it, I'll use soap and a sponge and get it sterile before I use it the next day. And she used to be like, dude, that gets boiling water through it every time, and it's just coffee. Like, you're not going to get real germs. There's nothing really to worry about. And maybe like 5 or 6 years ago, I stopped washing that thing. I just rinse it. I'll do a hot rinse after I use it, but I don't wash it anymore. And it has been liberating. It's like literally like 6 minutes of my day I've gotten back from not scrubbing this thing clean. And that's a metaphor for lots of things that I've loosened up about over the years. So like, yeah, mics, I don't really do mics anymore, but if I got to do a mic, I've really embraced the just like, let go of the details mentality and like just work on whatever I'm there to work on, or even bar shows. Like I I can get cranky at a bar show when I'm looking around and I'm like, does anybody know how to fucking run a show? You know, but then I'm like, I gotta let this go. This is comedy. This is meant to be fun and silly. And like, if I'm here like trying to control how everybody else is doing things, like I'll just go fucking nuts. So
Yeah, dude.
sorry, I feel like I'm. I don't know if any of this is making any sense.
No, it makes sense to me. I like the idea of because I don't have kids, and having kids seems to be the most stressful thing imaginable. Because then it's like now it's all about me. Like I'm almost 34, and I get to it's still all about me. You know what I mean? But and then I think that like there's some things in your life that change when you have kids. For example, there is somebody that's not giving me money, which is something that happens when you do comedy.
I have that going on too. I'm sorry.
But I had this conversation with someone actually who doesn't have kids, but is married, and I'm single. And he's like, we're not getting paid. And I was like, well, I'm never going to follow up with this person about the money. I just won't ever work with them until they pay me for the first thing. Yeah. And he's like, oh, that seems to be the good way to go, but my wife doesn't agree.
Yeah. No, there's other considerations. I will say the most stressful thing about having a kid is not the kid, it's the dynamic shift in your relationships. Like the way I've been setting up this in materials to say like, you know, I love my wife more than anybody I've ever met. I love my kid more than anybody on the planet, but you get the three of us together and I hate my fucking family. Cause it's like, it does change your role from like sexy lover, girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife, like, which before a kid comes usually does turn into roommates. That role changes, but then the kid comes and you're parenting together. And 2 summers ago when my kid was 1.5, we had like so many stressful kind of disagreements and like little spats about how we handle her out at the playground or how we look after her. Like what our tolerance level is for danger situations, like different disagreements. And it really got funky. And I like almost like relapsed over. I really wanted to drink because it was like so stressful to be like the new dad stuff that was always felt easy for me. Cause I mean, honestly, so much of the pressure is on the mom, just biologically, it's like so stressful on new moms, but new dad stuff, parenting was like fun and easy and I loved it. It was new co-parent that stressed me out. It was like the new dynamic between my wife and I that was like the really hard part. So if you like kids, it's actually super fun and like for the dad, typically easier, which I admit to. So yeah, you're going to be a great dad if you want that. I'm definitely not a person. I'm never out here being like, you got to do it. It's the best thing ever. Like that's what we're here for. Like, I don't think everybody should have kids. So I won't ever be that.
It's so funny that you said that last part because I had Boris Haken on the podcast. Who's the first dad.
Yeah.
I'm sorry you weren't the first dad.
Oh, that's okay. He's amazing.
Yeah. But he was talking, he was like, I used to be like, oh, you got to have kids. Excuse me. And now he's like, now that I have kids, if anyone's like, I don't want them, I'm like, that's cool. You don't have to. They're a lot of work.
Yeah. They're a lot of work and a lot of money too. Like in this city, like, you know, we're just having one kid and like people don't like that. And it's like, oh, that's interesting. You think I should have more kids. Where's the money coming from? Because like, it's fucking expensive to not have a kid in New York City. Yeah. Like everything's too expensive. So yeah.
Well, some people are worried that if you only have one kid, it's going to grow up weird.
Yeah. So shit, you're an only kid.
I'm an only child.
This is the first time I've ever wanted to get another child immediately. She's cool, man. She's like the mayor of daycare. Like we have a ton of this afternoon. She's got a couple buddies from daycare coming over. She's really social. She probably too social. Like we haven't really communicated what stranger danger is yet, you know? So she'll just like go up to anybody. She'll make new friends everywhere she goes. Like, so I'm not worried about that. I think it's up to us to just keep our social life going so that she always has some kind of a chosen family, you know? Like I do believe in like chosen family, like find your brothers and sisters, even if they're not your biological ones, you know? Like I know you have close relationships in comedy. Like I think that means you are definitely not weird. Like you're a weirdo, but you're not weird.
Yeah. And the great thing about your chosen family, your chosen siblings, is that you could fuck them.
Yes, exactly.
You can't fuck your actual sisters.
Yeah, unless you don't know that they're your siblings, and then you find out later when you do 23andMe.
Ooh.
I love those news stories.
Yeah, that's wild.
That's my kink is, whoops, I banged my sister.
Because it's like you did the most forbidden thing, but it's not your fault.
Yeah, exactly. It was a clerical error.
Dude, I was talking about this recently with a friend. I've never fucked a woman with red hair, and not by choice. It just hasn't happened.
Oh.
It just has not happened. But I wonder if like my biology is like, let's try not to do incest.
Yeah.
Let's do our best. Not to. You know what I mean?
I think that is a biological thing. And I think pheromones, from what I understand, there is a biological tendency to be attracted to people who are different from you because different, like genetic diversity is better for child rearing or whatever, or like the potential for.
And I don't want a child that has skin as pale as I do.
You don't want the clear skin,
dude.
Like, you know those phones they sold at Spencer's Gifts where it's like clear and you can see all the wiring inside in the 80s?
That's me.
That's you.
That's me. You can see my veins, dude. Yeah. Hey, so I thought of this because you said you're only having one child. And then earlier in the podcast, you said that growing up, you felt like you were in the way a lot. Do you have a lot of siblings?
I'm one of three, and this is a thing that I'm sort of reckoning with now. Is like I do bits about it. I have hang-ups about growing up. We weren't poor per se, but there was money stress. Like I can remember there being stress about money. I think the shorthand I use on stage is like we were broke growing up. So there wasn't a lot of money. There wasn't a lot of space. It was a small house. My brother and I shared a room. My sister's room was right next to ours. Everybody was like on top of each other. And I do all these bits making fun of my parents or making fun of those circumstances. But now here I am raising a child in a 1-bedroom apartment in Bushwick with a dog and a wife. There's not enough fucking room. We all are on top of each other. We sleep in the same bed. We're going to build another room in the living room, but that's going to be a tiny room. So she's going to, if we stay, we plan to stay. We want to raise her here. It's like, you know, what is it? Was it Cats in the Cradle, the song? It's like, I'm going to create the same hang-ups for her, like the same complexes about scarcity and space, because we do have money. We have money meetings and money fears, and we like work on money stuff, my wife and I. We talk about it a lot. There's some stress around it. And I'm just like, oh, she's going to grow up in the exact same environment as me. So like any criticism I have of my parents is now like, I'm just pointing the finger at myself at this point. I actually forget. Oh, being in the way. Yeah, it always felt like I wish I had more space. I wish these people weren't so close to me. Like, how do I couldn't wait to get out of that house. Like like all that stuff. It's major scarcity complex. Like there's never enough, not enough money, not enough women, not enough drugs or alcohol or whatever. Like that is all definitely related, you know? So I'm raising a small alcoholic and potential stand-up comedian.
Dude, I think, and this might be super simplistic, but if I ever have children, I'm going to be like, listen, you're going to roll your eyes at all the dad advice I'm going to give you. But the one where you should really pay attention is just don't drink alcohol ever.
Yeah.
Just don't. Yeah. It's all the reasons that people give you for why it's fun is actually bullshit.
Yeah.
And it just makes it harder to socialize.
Yeah.
And it makes you fat and it makes your skin look weird. And just fucking don't, especially if it's my kid. I'm like, you're already translucent. Okay.
Yeah. And my last name is Sheehan.
Yeah.
Like it's in your blood.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You can't control the size of your penis, little Bobby Jr., but you can control how fucking big and puffy your face gets.
Yeah.
All right.
And you can control how much people might want to touch your little penis by making yourself more attractive. Good for you, man. That sounds like you're ready for parenthood.
Yeah. No, I'm not. The money thing. Holy moly, am I not ready for the money thing?
Yeah. Dude.
Yeah. And also, like, I'm still like, I guess you're never at a point where you're like, I'm ready.
Yeah, yeah.
but I'm so not ready.
Yeah.
Like I don't, my career is not where I would
What's your
like it to be.
relationship status?
I am single.
Okay.
And single
that's a roadblock to parenthood.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Dude, I have what I guess might be a cancelable opinion. You ready?
Yeah, I can't wait.
Maxim, ride the cough button. All right. I think being single and being like, I'm going to have one by myself is like wildly insane behavior and possibly even selfish.
Even if it's a woman.
Regardless of the gender.
Okay. Here's where I'll push back. I'll say that if she's independently wealthy and can afford lots of help, then go for it. I have a similar opinion that I'm a little, I mean, you have listeners on my podcast. I could probably just say this. We have friends who are now, I want to be careful. I think there is a number that is too many kids to have.
Yeah.
I think we a joke I said the other day was like, yeah, I want to send them a card that says congratulations on the front, and then on the inside it says, have you heard about sea level rise? Like we're in trouble. Like we're in trouble, right? Like we're fucked, right? Like climate change wise.
Oh, I have no idea.
Like I think we're in big trouble, like environmentally and economically. Like things are gonna start crashing in really dramatic ways, probably. And I'm just like, I can't. I'm feeling feelings about people having 4, 5, 6 kids. You know what I mean? Like I think that's super weird.
I just, I would start not knowing what to name him after a while.
Yeah.
That's why I empathize with George Foreman. He just has like 7 kids named George Foreman or whatever.
So smart. But when you have that amount of CTE, you just can't think of names. So, and the single person having kids, that's tough. That's tough because I do think there's like this biological imperative thing that comes up for women, especially where it's like some women just really in this like deep core level thing, like want and need to have the experience of mothering. But there's other ways to mother too. Like if you're saying like there's lots of children out there who need like I'm big on adoption. Like if I were wealthy and we did want to have a bigger family, I hope we would adopt before we would try to have another one.
But it is cool when a little person looks like you. Yes. That is, I imagine that is exciting.
Actually, I'm surprised how much I am enjoying. I have enjoyed people saying, "Oh my God, she looks just like you." I mean, it's the quickest ego boot. You know what I mean? It is, and I know it's meaningless, and I know it's nonsense. I know that's a cheap form of like validation, but it's. I mean, it's all part of our biological makeup. You know.
Was there anything about fatherhood that surprised you?
Yeah, I guess like emotional stuff. Like like there was a time I was sitting there when she first started like being able to physically pick up food and put it in her own mouth. And a lot of this could be related to exhaustion. Like you're exhausted, you're worried, you're stressed in all these new ways. And I was just sitting there watching her eat by like feeding herself, and I just started crying, you know? So like I've always been a sensitive person, but just crying over, like, it felt like the miracle of life. Like people say like, oh my God, the moment my kid was born, it was like, so like that was intense and it was like amazing, but it's like the emotional stuff, the deeper emotional stuff has been unexpected. Another thing that happened about a year ago now, I was on a weekend trip shooting this thing, and we were doing this comedy thing, and there was a guy there who we were having lunch, and I think he was trying to stir up some controversy. He was trying to have a spicy, cancelable conversation, and he picked up some footage on Instagram of this runway model who is an amputee. She had amputation at the thigh, and she's like hobbling down the runway. Like she is like crooked walking. Like it's very jarring to look at this woman walking down the runway. And he said, what do you think of this? Do you think this is beautiful? And I knew right away he was trying to get us to say, yeah, this brand wants to look good by having an amputee be a model or whatever. Like he wanted to have that conversation, I think. And we have been reading this book for 3 years now called Bodies Are Cool. It's like you go through the whole, it's a kid's book, and it's like, this person's fat, this person's an amputee, this person's trans. Like there's people with like top surgery scars, and there's women with hairy legs or non-binary. There's like people of every, whatever. It's just like all these things. And it's the refrain is that bodies are cool, no matter what you look like, no matter what your body looks like, your skin tone, the type of hair you have. And it's like, we like it because it's like, we are so white. Like she'll never really face any kind of oppression in that department. But like, we want her to, she's around all different types of people at school and everything. So we've just been reading this book, and it's actually been helping me to look at that because I have this like beer gut that won't go. It's an ice cream. I'm skinny fat is probably how people say it. And it's like the biggest source of like body issues that I have. And I've been loving this book because I have to remember, like, this is my body. I got to accept it for what it is. Like the more I shit on myself about it, the more like crummy I'm going to feel. So I might as well just like go with it. So anyway, this guy brings this thing with the model and the amputation. And I said, well, I think it's good that, it might be a political correctness move of this company to like get some like attention or whatever. Like their motives might be in the wrong place, but this woman, I think, is a good symbol for young girls to see like there are opportunities out there for them no matter what they look like, even if it's modeling. And I get the point you're making, and then I started telling him, we've been reading our kid this book. It's called Bodies Are Cool. And as I start telling him, and we're at lunch with a couple of like big deal comics, and I start crying at the breakfast table talking about reading this kid's book. Fuck. And so that's a long story to say that it is surprising how much fatherhood has like made me a big pussy.
I love that, dude. Like he's like, we're just a couple of guys gonna grouse about cancel culture. And you're like, actually, I think all bodies are beautiful.
Yeah. Which, it might be super lame, but I don't know. I think I'm proud of that,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, surprises about fatherhood. I mean, I can't think of the surprises because it's like all the cliches are just true. It's like, people say it's not about you anymore. It's like so true. It's like every day is a compromise. Like, of course I want more me time and whatever, but it's like, you gotta, just kind of give in to like, I don't just get to run around and do whatever I want to do as much as I would like to.
I feel like every like way of life has like a sacrifice. So like the sacrifice of like having a family is you don't get me time, and the sacrifice of being single and childless is that you feel alone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like anytime you're like, I would like to be alone right now, you should think of like, but if I was alone, I'd feel lonely.
Yeah, no, totally. And but that's like where like self-care stuff is important. Like you really, I have to remind myself every day that like I get to be in this like I get to be stressed out about this problem, or I get to be annoyed by this kid that just threw crayons all over the apartment, or I get to like be scared about how like I gotta like find the gratitude in that stuff, because if I don't, and I start looking for all the things I wish were different, then I'm like not even living in the present moment. And that can get really funky for sure. And you can totally like just mentally check out. And like, that's the thing I talk about is like, oh, my dad wasn't there. Like I didn't get the attention I needed from my parent. And it's like, if I can easily do that. Like there's a way to emotionally desert your kid if I'm always thinking about what I wish was different. This isn't this is a comedy podcast, right? Like I feel like we
get into it.
I feel like I'm dragging it down.
No, we're getting into it. That's
right.
It's a comedy podcast, but it's also a truth podcast.
Oh, I like that.
I'm going to talk about the vaccine real soon.
Yeah.
This is actually not going on YouTube. It's going on Rumble.
Nice.
And boy, are they going to be upset with how much you love this children's book.
I actually, yeah. Yeah, I
Showing
just
our kids
actually
trans.
got canceled by the other side just now.
People forget that the right invented cancel culture. I will say that the left perfected it.
Yes.
The left has done a great job of really ramping it up.
Well, the left has like a itchy trigger finger for it,
Mm-hmm.
and they want to just like cancel everybody over like
Al Franken.
a misaligned opinion or one little boob squeeze.
One little boob squeeze.
I mean, yeah.
So, Patrick, the thing that you and I have in common is we're both sober Samuels.
Yes.
That's exciting.
It's sober Sam Adams.
Yeah.
Oh, I have a controversial topic about sobriety.
Okay, I'm ready.
Last Christmas break, or Christmas, we went on a Christmas trip a year and a half ago or whatever. I started getting into NA beers. Do you drink NA beers?
No, and but I'm not against them.
Yeah.
Because I feel like some people can be like I have an uncle who's an AA guy.
Yeah.
And I almost feel like he's like a 12-step fundamentalist.
Yes, they exist.
Yeah, we're like, because like, I mean,
I can tell you what he would say about it. He would say, you know who non-alcoholic beers are for? Non-alcoholics.
ooh,
That's like a big phrase you hear.
I fucking hate these people with their cutesy things that they say.
yeah.
Ugh. And the fucking smug look he probably has on his face as he's saying it.
Yeah, and I've been trying to do a bit about this, which maybe you can help me make it funny, but it's like the guy who says that to you, like they think if you relapse, you're going to relapse like they would. And I'm like, no, if I relapse, I'm going to just be the drunk frat boy again. I'll get naked in front of somebody, maybe get a sex charge against me. Who knows? But Cliff, if you relapse on NA beers, you're just scared because maybe you'll run over your ex-wife with a golf cart again. Like that's not where I go when I get drunk. So anyway, not funny yet. But the point is that, yeah, like I think some people can handle NA beers. I think in my early days I'm 15 years sober now. I like do not want to be drunk. I never drank for the taste, honestly. I always did drink cheap beer that got me drunk. And now I'm like actually finding myself like, oh, this is an interesting taste. I wonder how they brewed this. Like, this is cool. It's nice to, I don't know. I like the bitter, sour taste of something while I'm cooking dinner. But yeah, I was curious what if you had dabbled at all.
So when I quit drinking, I was living in my parents' basement. Very cool.
Yeah.
And I was like, Mom, no more drink. You know what's hilarious too? Because she's like, you might want to consider not being a drunk lunatic all the time. But she's like very like sweet and amicable. She's like, but you know, when you come home at 3 a.m. and you like fall down the stairs, it does make me like a little worried. You know what I mean? And then I was like, I'm not gonna drink ever again. She's like, I'm so happy to hear you say that.
That's
and
great.
then so she was like, without having like a lot of information, she was like, well, what do I do? So I remember the first day, like the first full day, she's like, I have a 6-pack of Rolling Rock.
That's hilarious.
Non-alcoholic.
That's hilarious.
And I drank that 6-pack and like I drank the six,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
I
yeah.
would drink. And then I was just like, I just feel like I ate a loaf of bread. Cause you get like the hops and the carbs
Yeah.
without like the buzz.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, I'm just drinking bread. And then it took me like a full few days to be like, I actually don't think there's anything special about beer other than the feeling that it gives you.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then
yeah.
my LaCroix addiction started,
Oh yeah, yeah.
which was even worse. I was sucking
never
dicks in
heard it-
alleyways for them and stuff. It was hard.
For the coconut.
Yeah, for the coconut of
That's my
course.
favorite one. I've never heard it pronounced LaCroix.
How do you
I've
say
only
it?
heard LaCroix.
I'm almost positive I'm mispronouncing it. then.
LaCroix, I've heard it. Yeah, I go LaCroix myself, but LaCroix I kind of like. It's fancy.
And I was because I was living in upstate New York, where the town that I live in, Groom Lake, you can't drink the water because there's problems with people's septic tanks.
Oh.
Basically, you can't. There might be poop in your water, so you could shower in and brush your teeth in it. I guess. I mean, I'll probably
Yeah.
get cancer. But
17 goes right through that town, right? Like over the lake. Yeah.
yep, and we have the one traffic light.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Oh,
now
you also have the what is that village called? It's like the old timey village place. It's like,
there's Warwick. Are you thinking of Warwick?
no, it's like a museum. You go and you see the blacksmithing.
Oh yes.
What is that called?
I don't remember what it's called, but I know exactly what you're talking
I
about.
think that's near there.
My buddy used to work as a blacksmith, which I thought was very funny.
Yeah.
He's like, I learned this new useless skill.
Yeah.
Well, that's great, man.
Yeah.
But Yeah.
So I'm a sober Samuel.
Mhm.
Yes.
The non-alcoholic beers. It's interesting because I have like an aunt and an uncle, and the uncle's like an AA fundamentalist.
Yeah.
And my aunt just like doesn't drink anymore.
Yeah.
And she drinks non-alcoholic beer. And I remember I was at a party and he was like, here's why you shouldn't drink non-alcoholic beer. And I didn't say this, but I wanted to say this. I wanted to be like, she's actually way more fun than you. Because she doesn't tell anybody else what to do. And meanwhile, you're like, oh my God, he did this thing one time
proselytizing or proselytizers, whatever that word is. It's like the worst. It's the worst. Yeah. I like your aunt. I would hang out with her.
Yeah, she's cool. We've gone to concerts together. She took me my first Green Day concert. It's very cool. But I remember one time, it's just like his personality a little bit. Like I think he's one of those types of people that found his way in the world and wants everybody else to find that way too.
Yeah.
So I remember one time, so my family is like very Irish Catholic, and my grandpa turned 100. He's dead, but we decided he didn't make it anywhere close to 100.
But you want to celebrate.
We wanted to celebrate what would have been his 100th birthday. His centennial.
I like that.
And so we had this barbecue in the backyard, and we're just having a nice time, right? And people are drinking, people are eating hamburgers, people are in their little sections and they're talking to each other. It's a party.
Yeah.
And so this guy, he's like, well, let's make it weird. So he's like, can I have everyone's attention? And my mom's like, oh my God, my brother is going to do this weird thing. And he goes, I think we should all go around the room and share something about Pop.
A memory. Yeah.
A memory. And like collectively,
everyone groaned.
The whole they were like, no, let's not do this.
Yeah.
This, I don't know.
Yeah, he was trying to control the environment, and he was making it about him. He claimed it was about Pop, but he was actually making it about him because he probably wanted to be comforted, or he wanted structure to the event. Yeah, alcoholics, we can be like that. We can like try to run the show or like impose our will on groups of people. There's a reason people drink hard. It's to quiet all that shit. You know what I mean? How did it go? Did you deliver
we
a toast?
Collectively as a group decided that was gay.
Your poor uncle. Your poor uncle. Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, it just didn't.
And that's your
happen.
Uncle's dad that they were memorializing?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh, well, another funny thing too is like, I think he's the polar opposite of my mom in a way. I think he's almost like toxically negative. Yeah. And my mom might even be positive to maybe even toxically positive.
Yeah.
Because I don't really, because my grandpa died before I was born. So I never met him.
Maybe you're your grandpa.
Maybe I'm named after him.
His soul was recycled.
It's possible.
So he was a Robert?
Yeah, he's a Robert.
Oh, nice.
So because my uncle would be like, our dad, he was like very emotionally distant, and I'm like permanently damaged because of it. And my mom's like, no, he was fine.
Yeah. I actually heard on that topic, I heard a profound thing that like changed how I feel about that. Like my parents were young when they had the three of us. We were all unplanned pregnancies. Like they weren't kids. They were in their mid 20s when my brother came along. And I have this idea that like we didn't get the attention we needed or whatever. You know, they got divorced when we were kids. There was alcoholism in the house. Like I have all these hangups. And I heard this woman say in a meeting that she felt the same way. And then she realized, whatever my makeup is, whatever my spiritual makeup is, like I was born so hungry for attention and so full of need for external validation that my parents probably did give me plenty of attention. It's just, it was never going to be enough. No matter how much attention anybody gave me, because of how I am, it just was never going to be enough. So it's actually fucked up of me to sit around thinking, oh, they didn't give me what I need. It's like, no, it's because even now, like I can feel it when I'm not taking care of myself or going to therapy or like doing the work. I can feel that feeling of like, nothing's ever going to be fucking good enough. And, so I have to forgive my parents for that. Like, and it sounds like your uncle, you know, is dealing with that too. And it's like, your dad probably did the best he could with what he had, but it was, no matter what he did, it might not have ever been enough, you know? And I think that's true in general. Like a person, no person can make another person actually feel whole. You know, it's kind of an inside job. That's my soapbox. That's my cancelable opinion.
It is interesting because now I'm the age that my dad was when he had me. When he didn't give birth to me.
Yeah.
Because this was in the 90s where men couldn't.
Right.
They were
there were only two genders in the 90s.
It's different. Anybody
time.
Gen Z listening, it was a whole different world. So yeah, I'm like, you get like, me at least, I have like a little more empathy because I'm like, oh, every dad and mom are just some guy or some woman.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, and they're worried about their own shit. Like, it's really, it's crazy. I mean, I think it sounds like you have become an adult in your own way, and of course that shifts how you look at your own parents, and like that's been very interesting to be a parent. And now I'm like, oh, I get it. Like, if I felt this crazy, if I feel this crazy with just 3.5 years of this, they must have felt insane with 10 years of this with 3 kids. It just must really tear apart a marriage.
And we live in a time where you could, like, if you feel sad, you could say it.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, everyone's not like, hey, shut the fuck up.
Yeah. Which, I don't know. I'm a little conflicted about that because there are studies that are showing that, like, maybe we're doing too much work on ourselves and looking too much at ourselves. So maybe, I don't know, for some people, the answer might be like, yeah, shut up and like get busy, or shut up and help somebody else. Who knows?
I've groused about this before because I had on the podcast, so I won't bore the listeners with the whole story again, but I was having a conversation with somebody, a comedian, and I had like a very minor problem. And he was like, have you considered going to therapy? I'm like, have you considered going to go fuck yourself right now? What a crazy thing to, that's like, I was so mad.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, it's just, it's a tough week. And he's like, I think you have deep-seated mental issues and you need to pay a professional to deal with them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I think that this might be projection, or it might be a thing there might be a thing where I try so hard not to do this as someone that doesn't drink anymore, because I'm sure you see people and you're like, I got a great, I have an idea for you that you would love, but you're like, I can't.
I mean, that's one of my jobs. One of my jobs, I work as it's called recovery coaching. I work with this agency and they pair you up with people who need extra help. And many of them end up working with this agency because they very specifically don't want to do meetings. And meetings work for me. Total abstinence works for me. That's what changed my life. I owe everything to the meetings in my community and total abstinence. But I have learned in many painful and repeated circumstances that no matter how much I want someone else to have what I got the way I got it, it just doesn't work for everybody. And not everybody wants that solution. And the more I like try to push it on somebody, the more it just makes me feel crazy when they don't do it, or they do it and they try it and then it like something goes haywire or it's not a fit. So yeah, the thing of attraction, not promotion, is a thing that they say, like, you can't sales pitch somebody on this 12-step program. You got to you can say like, yeah, I did this, it worked for me, but that's it. You know what I mean? Because it's very frustrating when that person rejects your great ideas, or your great ideas actually confuse things further for them. You got to just let everybody have their own journey. And like, we are kind of in a self-help therapeutic industrial complex right now where like everybody's talking about it. There's apps for it. And I think like that person could have said, well, I'm glad you're telling me about it. That's good that you're not just like holding all this in. It's good to talk to people about this stuff.
Yeah.
And then they could be like, I talked to my therapist about it, but they, that's actually, I saw that in a meme somewhere. It was like, they didn't have therapy in the 1800s because this is what they were doing. And it's like a picture of men sitting around on milk crates out on the street, like smoking cigars and bullshitting. And that's so true. It's like, if you have community and deep friendships and like people you can like,
and slaves
and people you can vent to, like perhaps therapy is like, doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean?
Did you get sober before you started doing comedy?
Yeah, no, well, so the first time I tried comedy, I was 19
Mhm.
in 2001.
Oh my God.
And then, I did
Pre 9/11?
yes.
Oh my God.
No, was it? It was pre 9/11. It was July 2001.
Hell yeah. Also, it
Or
already.
no, July 2000. It was summer after freshman year of college.
That's
yeah.
only a few months after the Marshall Mathers LP.
Wow.
That's crazy.
I love that as your historical benchmarks. Yeah, I only did it a few times and then sucked at it so bad. I was like, I'll just play in bands. I'll try to be the funny guy on stage.
Mhm.
And then, I got sober in 2008, became a workaholic, burned out in 2013, did the Artist Way. I don't know if anybody's talked about the Artist Way on here.
No.
That's like a creativity workshop.
Mhm.
It helps you get in touch with what your inner child wants. Yuck, I know.
Mine is pussy.
Yes. So it got me back going to try to get pussy and going to open mic. So I started going to open mics.
Which are diametrically opposed, by the way.
Yes. Never occurring in the same place. And I went and I hung out at open mics for like 3 months and never went up. And then, I guess it was like December 2011 or something. I went up for the first, I did 5 or 7 mics, sucked again. I was like, fuck that. I went back to production work, burned out again. And then finally, actually March 6th, 2014 was my first mic. So it was just 10 years of doing it last week. And I was like 5 years sober, but at the end of an emotional bottom of like workaholism, joking about suicide with people. Like, if I feel this way, I'm going to walk into in front of a bus next year, like shit like that. And I was like, I got to change something. So I did the Artist Way. If you're a creative person, it's like, you don't need it. You're out there, you're doing the work. But if you're a creative person who feels stuck or confused about what the hell they're supposed to do with their life, like, that book changed my life. But another example of having to do things in a group. I tried to do that book years ago by myself. It just sat on my bookshelf. And then I finally did it with a group in fall of 2012. And it like changed my fucking life. It was awesome.
The Artist Way.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, Pat, I got to ask you, Patrick.
Whatever. Either way.
You don't go back. Before you had kids, if someone called you Pat, you'd flip out. But now that you're centered and you're not fully cleaning the Keurig every day.
Yeah.
But I'm going to call you Patrick because I know that's your preferred name. Are you a morning person or a night person?
So this is interesting. This ties into sobriety a little bit. When I had a year sober, I was working in Chicago. I had lunch with a buddy, Joe Perez, I went to high school with, up in Walk Hill, New York, above Greenwood Lake. He was living in Chicago. And we got lunch, or we got dinner, and he was like, his mind was blown that I got sober, and I was celebrating a year that day, and we like had this funny meal where we hadn't seen each other in like 10 years or whatever. And he goes, and I guess I was just sharing with him that like I was having frustration with my job, or like, I was like working a lot. And out of nowhere, he goes, you know what, man? Sounds like you got to take your mornings back. And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, you got to get up way earlier. You can't just get up, shower, and run to the train and go to work. You got to get up and like give yourself like an hour of quiet time. Like, do whatever you want to do. Like, read a book or do some writing or listen to a podcast. This might have been pre-podcast. Listen to some music, but take your mornings back. And he gave me this like motivational speech about it. And I never forgot it. I loved it. And I did start doing that because back then I wasn't working in nightlife like we're doing now. I was grinding away at this like job that was killing me. But getting up extra early, I started getting up at 7, I guess, because I didn't really have to be anywhere till like 9:30 or 10. And I would sit and like listen to stuff, or I think I might have started doing morning pages around then, which is a part of the Artist Way thing. And that made me a morning person for sure. Now life is so different. Like, I actually wish that for you, if you want that kind of, I know you work nights too, but like I was single, I was about 30, and I was craving giving myself like some kind of sacred time that was just for me, because with my job, it was like, I just have to grind out this project. It wasn't fun at that point. So I needed that special time for just me. So I always wish that for people. Like, you should create time that's special for you so you can make shit that, or get on the road to making stuff that is important to you. Now I cannot say I'm a morning person. I'm up early. Like today I was up at 6 because she was up at 5:30 saying, it's morning. Wake, like literally saying, it's morning. Can we wake up? I want to go on the couch. I want to watch a show. Let's get up. Luckily, my wife let me sleep until 7:30. I got home at 12:30 in the morning. And yeah, with a kid, you're just up and you just are a morning person. They're napping right now. There's afternoon naps still, thank God, but that's going to start going away probably in the next year or two. So morning person, no, I mean, I'm barely a sleep person anymore. You know,
Yeah.
like if I'm not working, I'm in bed by like 8 or 8:30, and then I wake up at midnight after a deep sleep cycle. I do like a couple bullshit things, and then I try to sleep again, and sometimes I don't fall asleep again until 2 in the morning or whatever. And then she's up at 5:30, 6:30, somewhere in that window. She's
Just
up.
excited for the day to begin.
Yeah, dude, kids are just like pumped in the morning. So that's a challenge.
Yeah, they're like, let's do it again.
Yeah, they're like, let's make art, let's do some Play-Doh, let's watch a show. I'm like, can we have some fucking coffee, please?
So you coffee in the morning right away guy?
Yeah. I program it when I remember to the night before. I'm not doing the Keurig anymore. That's in my office, but yeah, I have a pot of coffee that starts brewing at 6 a.m. with the device. Yeah, coffee. I used to write every morning, longhand morning pages. I'm lucky if I get to do that once a week now. Yeah, morning routines. It's a mess. It's a mess now. It's like really like we're all just doing what we can to get out the door, to get her to daycare on time, and then go about our day. Like I have 3 jobs, so it's like some days I have to be in one place, some days I don't have to really be anywhere, but I have to do my own work. So every day is just this mess of like, and my wife also has 3 jobs. So
6 jobs between the two of you.
yeah, it's a little crazy. I mean, none of them are full time, of course, but it's like, it's just every day is so different. So it's a lot of like, we're going to fly by the seat of our pants for these first 2 hours of the day.
See, if I have like even a little deviation from a routine, I'm like, I feel a little bit off for the entirety of the day.
Yeah. One thing that's been big for me is because she has to be at daycare so early, I do go to a meeting that starts at 9 in the neighborhood, which is great. It's like an awesome crew of people. I love everybody there. And like, I only go there Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays typically. And that gives me like a solid like hour to just like regroup, chill out, like get something off my chest if I need to, or just enjoy the company of like people I like. And then it's like, okay, I can like start from zero, you know? So yeah, I guess that's a huge morning routine that I love.
Yeah. 3 times a day. 3 times a day. 3 times a week.
Yeah. I don't go because it's like, if I don't go, I'm going to drink. It's more like I'm such an extrovert that I like the hang of it at this point. I mean, there are times, like I said, 2 years ago, I was really fucking close to drinking because I actually wasn't going at all at that time. You know, it was just like, I would go like twice a month or whatever. But yeah, right now it's mainly like a social scene for me, I think. Yeah.
That seems nice to have a place where you go to and then you can hang out with everybody and the other people are not comedians.
Yeah. But they're very funny in a very specific way, you know, like, but yeah, it's not that feeling of like, oh, these are like the pseudo coworker friend, like weird boundary stuff. Like maybe we fucked once, like, you know, whatever. Well, actually, I guess that does happen in the rooms too. Yeah. No, it's good. It's good to have like real human being relationships.
Sometimes the comic hang is very good, but sometimes you'll be talking with an acquaintance and you're either battling with their phone or like they're like, I could just not even like, oh, I got a notification. It's just like mid conversation. I actually need to scroll Instagram, which seems crazy to me. Yeah. It's hard not to take that personally.
Yeah. It's very hard. Yeah.
Or the thing where it's like, I'm talking to you, Patrick, right? But then someone else walks in
somebody caught my
and
eye.
someone might be more important than you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Or the thing that if this feels therapeutic, but I'm going to vent to you about what's going on. And then like to a certain degree that can be therapeutic and supportive, but then if it turns into a full on shit talking sesh, like, which feels good while you're doing it, but I compare it to eating candy. It's like, this candy is delicious. And then I walk away and I want to fucking puke because I'm so sick of myself and whatever I just said that I wish I kept to myself. Yeah, all that stuff can get super funky.
Well, I feel like I've been like cranky lately. Not cranky is the best word to put it, because it's not like I'm not like depressed. I'm not like furious, but I'm like a tiny bit cranky.
Yeah.
And if any, like, I'm not going up to random people and being like, here's who I have beef with now. But if someone opens that door, I'll push it open.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's like, they're like, you hear about this fucking guy? You're like, yeah, that fucking guy. Yeah.
I won't start it, but I will participate in it.
Yes. No,
Yeah.
totally. Because that's a bonding. That's how we bond.
So Patrick, if people out there want to vent to you,
oh yeah,
how can they do so? This is my way of shoehorning the plug, because we have
I love that. Yeah, just vent to me in my DMs. Yeah, I'm on Instagram as the Holbert Report, the Holbert Report. That I've been putting up clips and stuff from my podcast on there, trying to put up more stand-up stuff. I think I got a good clip last night. There was a 1-year-old at a show I was at.
Ooh.
And she made this cooing sound.
Aw.
And it was so sweet. And I stopped mid-bit and I said, that sound made me just miss my own daughter so much. Like, I don't even want to be here anymore. I think I might leave right now, because it was just so sweet and it hit me in some biological part of my core. It was nice.
Because you're now a sensitive guy.
Yes.
But I'm going to go ahead and say it. You're also a cool guy and funny guy. So guys, please follow Patrick, the Holbert Report on Instagram. And remember, folks, early to bed, early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise.
Take your mornings back.
I'm just playing night owls. You know I love you.